we're going to begin reading our social studies book. You should be on page 316. You're going to follow along with me as I'm reading, just like we do in class. You're going to have your finger on the page, following the words as I read the words. Remember, if your brain is seeing it and hearing it, it's learning in two different ways. So also, now that you're at home, if it's possible, you can also read out loud as we're following along with me to help you remember the information as much as possible. Okay, so be on 316. Go ahead and get your following finger on the page. National government. We're going to build on what you know. When you start a class project, you may write a plan for how it will work. In a way, that is like the plan that early leaders wrote for our nation's government. So stop now and think about our projects we've done in school, probably more like the STEM projects we've done together as a group. How did having a plan help you? All right, we're going to go ahead and continue. And before I continue reading, let's look at the vocabulary on the side. We have new words we're going to focus on this unit. The first one is constitution. So pay attention, it's going to be highlighted when we read. We're going to focus on the meaning of that word. The second word is democracy. The third is liberty. And the last new word we're going to learn is justice. So really pay attention when we get to those areas. Now let's move on to our next paragraph, a plan for government. In Unit 5, you read about the Revolutionary War. When that war ended, American leaders did not want a king to rule the new nation. The leaders met and wrote a new plan for the government. That plan is called the Constitution. So let's review. What is the Constitution? All right, I'm going to move my camera over for a little bit, so just be patient with me as I move. Here's our picture of our leaders meeting together to make that plan. The caption states, leaders worked on the Constitution in Philadelphia in 1787. What do you notice about their clothes and hair? It is true, this was a long time ago. We're saying 1787. We are now in the year 2020. So this was over 200 years ago. And you notice their clothes, their hairstyles were much different back then. But they still had to come together to make a plan, and that's what they were doing here in Philadelphia. Important words. The writers of the Constitution planned a democracy, which is a government by the people. They used words that they believed were important in a democracy. One word was liberty, which means freedom. Another was justice, which means fairness. Why are they still important words today? Okay, we're on 318. Make sure you have your following finger along with me. The government in 3 parts. The Constitution is more than 200 years old. It is still the plan for our government today. The Constitution describes a government in 3 parts or branches. Each branch has its own building in Washington, D.C. On the pages, you can read about the people who work in those buildings. And let's review. How many branches does the government have? Here is the first branch of the government. We have the president who works in the White House. The president of the United States is the leader of the nation. The president lives and works in the White House. And we already know that that's what the White House looks like from when we did our famous landmarks. And here's a map of Washington, D.C. Here is the White House. And you notice right next to the White House, not very far, is the Capitol building. Now, we already learned this in a previous chapter. Do you remember who works in the Capitol building? Okay, let's find out. The members of Congress make laws. Men and women in Congress come from all 50 states. They work in the Capitol building. So all of those people we elect to represent our state go to the Capitol building, and they help represent us in our government. And the third building is the Supreme Court. Well, let's see who works there. The Supreme Court has 9 judges who look carefully at laws. They decide if the laws are fair and protect citizens' rights. They meet in the Supreme Court building. And I'm going to show you, I'm going to go back to the map again. Let's look back at the map. We have the White House. Sorry, my stand is covering it. Here we go. The White House, the Capitol building, and then right next door, the Supreme Court. 3 branches of government, 3 different buildings, side by side, all working together for our country. Okay, and let's answer the questions down below. When do you say with liberty and justice for all? Tell what it means. What are the 3 branches of national government? Make a chart that shows who works in the 3 branches of government. So that's going to be your assignment today. Just on a piece of paper, I want you to draw it out. Make a chart for me that shows the 3 branches of government and who works in each branch. Upload a picture of it to me to make sure you were following along and listening to this lesson.